Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good middle of the night, whatever time you're watching this video, friends. With the legislative session in Iowa having wrapped up just about a week ago, I wanted to take a few minutes to give a little summary, a little review of what happened this year. Start with some of the things I'm frustrated with. I'm frustrated that we passed a $900 million deficit budget. This budget is going to overspend our revenue by $900 million without any plan from the majority party to address the fact that we're taking in less than we're spending. I also am frustrated with the fact that there was no action in the House to address the fact that so much money was misallocated to the general fund that should have gone to the Victims' Compensation Fund, the Road Use Tax Fund, and a few other funds in Iowa. That was something that the Justice Branch asked us to work on, and we did not even touch. We only increased school funding this year by 2%, which will put half of our school districts at risk of needing to increase property taxes or cut services. We continued to see these hammering attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion in our schools and in our communities. I still don't understand why people would want Iowa to be less diverse, less equitable, and less inclusive. The Iowa Legislature passed Medicaid work requirements, and the governor separately put in place work requirements through an executive order that will put over 180,000 Iowans at risk of losing their health coverage, when we know that over 75% of folks who receive Medicaid are already working to their capacity. And just knowing some of the personal stories that were shared with me, that one really hurt. In the last hours of the session, the majority party passed a handout from the unemployment trust to corporations who lay off workers to send jobs out of Iowa. That seems wrong to me. Our County Board of Supervisors determination was preempted at the local level. Now 3 out of 99 counties will be required to use a district model, whereas all other 96 counties will be allowed to choose the model that works for them. And one other preemption that bothered me, we are now going to be forcing locals to allow setting off fireworks 3 days a year instead of leaving that to local decision makers. I think that's wrong. For me, the worst day of the session, without question, was stripping gender identity out of the Civil Rights Code. We were the first state to take away civil rights from any of our people, and it's unconscionable, it's unwise, and it's hurtful for no reason. This is allowing people to discriminate. That's all it does. It allows discrimination based on gender identity. There are a few things that I feel good about this session. We passed a PVM reform bill, a pharmacy benefits manager reform bill that it's not perfect, but I do think it's going to be an improvement, and I think it's going to help our pharmacies and those who are needing to fill their prescriptions. I hope to see that turn out the way I picture it turning out. We passed the Seizure Safe Schools Act. This is something that I have been learning about. It was one of the first bills that I heard about when I was first elected, and I really feel strongly that making sure that we have trained personnel in our schools who know how to identify and deal with a seizure is vitally important. Passed some improvements to the National Guard Service scholarships that I think are going to help those serving in Iowa. We finally passed anti-SLAPP legislation. SLAPPs are strategic lawsuits against public participation. They're really hurtful lawsuits that try to take advantage of a power imbalance or a money imbalance between parties in a lawsuit, so that even if the lawsuit has no grounds, it can sometimes bankrupt an entity like a local newspaper, and this law will help prevent that. We did pass a bill that will allow remote testimony for children in cases of abuse. I feel this is incredibly important. I am so respectful of the right of the accused to face their accuser, but I do feel like there have to be some lines drawn for the protection of children. So that was a great win to pass that bill. There was a disaster mitigation bill that includes some consumer protections after a natural disaster that I really hope will improve the situation as Iowa sees more and more extreme weather events. We passed a local food pilot program that will allow food banks to purchase from local producers, and we continued a school purchase program that allows similar. I think those are great programs. We have a bill that passed that's on the governor's desk that requires lead disclosure during property sales. To me, that's That's a good win. And then finally, we finally are requiring hands-free while driving in Iowa. I do understand that there are folks who are frustrated about this one, but from my mind, I have seen in my own behavior and in people around me on the road how dangerous being distracted by a phone in our hand can be. And so really leaning into using those hands-free devices, using hands-free mode, especially now that more and more cars, almost all cars, have that integrated. I think that's a great win for Iowa safety, for those working on the roads, for those driving on the roads, walking, biking, whatever it is. Let's just keep each other safe, folks. So overall, it was a pretty frustrating session for me. A lot of hurtful bills were put forward that didn't end up passing, but that doesn't mean that we don't take them seriously. It doesn't mean that I don't take them seriously. Attacks on libraries, attacks on the existence of trans Iowans, attacks on some of our land and water. And so those are things that I'm always keeping an eye on and trying to fight against. Thank you so much for your support, and let's keep going.